That's post Aquinas. So I said at the very beginning that the level of the distinction is the same for the energies as it is between the persons.
Yeah, but that differs among positions, like I've said, right?
Okay, so let's make it really clear then. In Leviticus 9, we have the manifestation of the glory of God in time and space, and the Israelites bow down and worship it. What is that?
Sure, we would say that's the energy.
Okay. So it's not the essence, right?
Sure, but if you read the Synod of 1351, it has to be contemplated with it.
What has to be contemplated with it?
The essence always has to be contemplated with it.
I didn't say that it's not contemplated with it, but you're not participating in it.
Yeah, sure. I'm simply saying that you need to clarify. You're not.
Okay, but
you're not participating in the identity of the essence now.
Right. So you're participating in the energy, and that's why the fourth of the Palamite synods condemns the Thomistic position of Prochorus.
Right, but you wouldn't say that Barlaam himself was a Thomist.
No, I think he was a Greek monk or monastic, or I forget exactly what his. He might have been an abbot or something, but no, he's not one-to-one a Thomist. But he. Yeah,
right. Scalora says he's anomalous, right? He upholds William of Bachman's position that there's only a simply logical distinction between them.
Right. No, I agree with Bradshaw's argument that, for example, katapanoia, it can be only a conceptual distinction or a conceptual distinction that's also in the object or in the thing. So it can be both. It could be either one.
Right. Okay. So you would think that, generally speaking, a real distinction is simply improper terminology.
Again, I said at the very beginning, like Bradshaw says, it's confusing and not helpful to use the terminology of late scholasticism for people that are writing way before that. And so the easiest way to solve this problem with like a SCOTUS or something like that would be to say, well, what are we participating in? If it's not the essence of God, then it has to be some real uncreated energy, right?
Right, but
so why are you even arguing with me? Like, what's the...
Right, because the thing is, you already conceded that the terminology itself is wrong, yet when you talked with Dr. David, not Bradshaw, what was his name? Bo Branson, yes, my bad. You said that the essence and energies are really distinct, and then the persons are also...
Yeah, and when I explain what's real, I give the meaning of that.
Right, and then I asked you before, what was your meaning of it?
And I said again for the third time, the level of distinction between essence and energy is the same level of distinction between the persons. So let's talk about Thomism as an example.
That's not a definition. That's an example.
There is no definition that if we don't use that terminology.
Definition for the distinction you apply to things.
I don't have to have a definition because I'm not a scholastic. The scholastics have to define everything.
To be a scholastic is to have definitions of distinctions. Would you say Scalorus was wrong then in the sixth tome?
No, I don't have any problem with him trying to work out these distinctions, but I don't think what he's arguing disagrees, because when you laid out what it was, he meant a distinction that entails composition or division. And at the very beginning of this discussion, I said that distinction does not entail composition or division. And it's the analogy that even Palamos uses is between the persons.
Sure, right. However,
well, if sure right, then what's the problem?
This terminology, which you conceded is incorrect, which you conceded you have no definition for, and then when Scalorus, our saint, by the way, outright defines these terms for us so that we can apply them in our context.
Yeah, but what you defined was
you then arbitrarily.
No, it's not arbitrary. It's not arbitrary. You're just
yes, it is, because you don't even have a definition for the term that you're using.
Because I don't necessarily have to use that terminology like Bradshaw says. Why do I have to?
Okay, why does Bradshaw, the scholar, have more precedent over Scalorus' definition, who's a saint and had dogmatic tomes?
Well, again, what you said from Scalarius is not a problem for what I argued.
Right, so if we understand who are saints, who define the term as this and that, why then do you equivocate the term into something completely arbitrary, which you have no definition for?
It's not arbitrary. It's not arbitrary.
What does the distinction between the persons mean?
I'm saying there is no scholastic definition of what a difference between the person and another person is, other than to say that they're really distinct. Like that
because they're relatively opposed, right? Because scholastics would tell you they have numerous categories.
Oh, so wait a minute. Are you so now you're a scholastic?
No, I'm telling the scholastic position to you because you appeal to the scholastic position.
When?
You said, well, there's no proper definition for the scholastic position.
Why would we expect that so do the Cappadocians use scholastic definitions?
No, but obviously.
Okay, so why do I? So hold on. So could we understand those dogmatic teachings before the scholastic definitions?
Sure, right, but then when we come to modern day language, they never spoke in English. Then why are we speaking English? We can use
that's an irrelevant argument to what we're talking about.
We can use linguistics and terminology later on as developed.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, and nothing that was stated. If you agree with the position that we really participate in uncreated energies, I don't even understand what your problem is with what I'm arguing.
I'm simply saying it's a real distinction is improper term, which were rejected by our saints, and even Theophanieos says it's simply a notional distinction. He has an entire chapter on that.
Well, he argues that the terminology is ambiguous. Right?
Yeah, regarding conceptual, but if you also read his analysis on the tomes, he simply says that it's been softened, the distinction is softened, right? And that there's a basis in the object or the thing itself, but that we can't say it's a real distinction. And this is what he says in his later work on what are divine energies, right? He says
you think the energies aren't really distinct from the essence?
I wouldn't say we're not really distinct, no, and I haven't seen a single proper citation of that, especially with Scholars.
The Palamite Synod say that. Well, I would say, by the way, that the Palamite Synod trumps Scholaris.
You know, he had a tome. Scholaris had his dogmatic synod as well.
Yeah, but let me just prove it to you just from straight up theological argumentation. How's that?
No, because if let's go back.
I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove it.
Synods, it uses the word logismo, which means by reason alone. How do you understand that?
Yeah, because in that discussion, I know what you're talking about in the Pinos section. So let me show you that. Let me show you the argument, the problem with that.
No, I'm just asking. How do you understand logismo?
I'm going to show you the problem with that.
Sure.
So, is uncreated glory only conceptually distinguished from the action of creating?
We can say that, sure.
So it's not really distinct. So there's not a real distinction between God. No. Okay, then creation is in reality eternal.
That wouldn't follow because creation is an effect, right? And cause and effect.
No, the action of creating, not creation as an effect, the action.
Right, but then if we read Theophanieos' second book, right, he simply says that God is eternally active as an inward operation, right? He doesn't need it.
No, I'm talking about
later on that the
manifestation. But creation is not creation. The act of creating is not an inward action.
Yes, it is. If you read Theophanieos' book on it, he says that exact same thing. I can quote you it right now.
Well, maybe I don't have a problem saying he might be wrong. So you think that the action of creating is
so would you?
So did God? Hold on. Did God rest?
And not Mark of Ephesus.
No.
Maximus
the principle.
Maximus,
hold on.
The confessor says God is an eternally active creator.
I agree with that, but that doesn't mean.
I don't really understand.
No. That's the distinction. That's the distinction between first and second actuality.
Sure. Would you say God is first actuality and then he moves on a second actuality?
No, the action of creating is not. That's a power that he has that he doesn't have to actualize. So he's eternally creator in the sense of having that power. That does not mean. That does not mean.
In relation to actualization, it's in first act.
What?
In relation to it being actually actualized, it's in first act.
So you're saying God has always actualized creation?
Not outwardly, no, but it's simply an inward manifestation of his being.
So God has always created within his being?
Yeah, sure, as an inward expression of his being.
Created within his being.
Sure, just as a priest does not need to be serving divine liturgy to be a priest.
So that's a power that's not yet actualized. That's the point. Did he rest from creating?
Sure, right, but just because it's not outwardly expressed doesn't mean he's not eternally active.
Agreed, but he's not eternally active in the power of creating.
Sure, because the power of creating is external, and that's active.
Exactly.
Power,
so did he rest from creating?
Sure, as in the manifestation.
Is the manifestation itself eternal?
I wouldn't say so. No, it begins and ends.
Exactly. Thank you.
Says.
Yeah. So there's a distinction between eternal glory and the action of creating.
Sure, we can say there's a virtual distinction between the.
No, it's a real distinction. It's not virtual, because if it's only virtual,
no,
then
between the energies themselves, we can say there's a virtual distinction.
So the action of divine knowledge is equated to eternal glory.
Sure, you can say that they're virtually distinct. In reality, sure, you can equate them together.
Well, the Palamite Synod say they're different realities.
Reality is the improper term, right? When they talk about realities,
it's the terminology that they use. How could
that has a basis in the thing?
How could there be an equating between, say, divine providence and eternal glory?
Well, there's not an equating here because
Well, you said they're only conceptually. You said they're only conceptually distinct.
Right, conceptually distinct destroys formal identity. So when you're saying equating here, you're misinterpreting that because equating here refers to formal identity. They're different formal identities, but we can say they're the same material reality.
So it doesn't get us anywhere because it's the same thing.
Sure, in reality, it's the same thing. Would you say you have numerous different realities?
In Leviticus 9, is that an eternal manifestation?
Leviticus 9, could you just read the entire verse for me here?
Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle at the meeting, and they came out and blessed the people. The glory of the Lord appeared to all the people, and fire came down from before the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. When the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. Does this theophany come and go?
Sure, we could say theophanies come and go.
Was the manifestation of that theophany itself God himself?
Sure, we can say that.
So it was an energy in space and time?
Sure, because it's manifested, right? But the energy and power itself does not begin and end.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Here's the problem in Tino's. Here's the problem in Pino's point here, which is that it kicks the can down the road. It moves the problem back a step. Is the manifestation itself fully God?
Sure, yes.
So did God come and go in time and space?
No, right? Because the manifestation itself has nothing to do.
You just said the manifestation itself is divine.
Yes, because it's related to God.
Oh, it's related to God. Is it really fully God?
Sure.
Did it come and go in time and space?
No, because it's the appearance.
So it didn't come and go. So yeah, exactly. So here's the problem.
Because it's the appearance that came in time.
But the appearance is God, as you just said.
Not really, no.
It's not God. So the glory of God. So the glory of God appeared, but it's not really God.
Manifested is fully God, but the appearance of that energy.
The appearance is the energy. It's the theophany. It's the theophany.
Right. So you would say.
It's the theophany, isn't it?
Yeah, but would you see the energy physically?
What does it say in the text that I just read to you? All of Israel saw the glory of the Lord and they fell down.
Sure, right, but I can simply say that's the created manifestation of the...
There is no created manifestation of the Theophanies.
Yes, there is. Right?
No, there's not. Theophanies are not creatures. Theophanies are not creatures. You just got exposed. Theophanies are not creatures.
And then some others aren't.
No, they're not. This is the glory cloud. It's not a creature.
You can say the glory cloud isn't a creature, but you need to justify that off patristics, right? Because Polymus himself...
It's called the glory of God.
Right,
is the glory of God a creature? So now you're a Muslim.
No, right, but I can simply say that the appearance or
the manifestation you already said is God. You just contradicted yourself.
Right, of the
appearance is the manifestation. You just contradicted yourself.
I can say the appearance of the energy is a created effect.
No, it's not. It's a theophany. Now you're a Roman Catholic.
You can say no, it's not.
No, everybody knows it is. That's the so you're not actually Orthodox, are you?
Well, would you say Paul?
So he's not Orthodox. See that? So this is what Roman Catholics do. They mine the Orthodox stuff to come and try to argue Scotism. And then when we go to the actual passages, you heard him melt down. Look at all that. So that was all a bunch of sophistry. Just like with the Thomists earlier. Here's a bunch of fancy citations. What about the formal distinctions? What did he just say about the theophany there? He went from saying it's really God, it's really a manifestation, but it's a creature. The glory cloud is not a creature. You can't worship creatures. They fall down and worship the theophany. So what is scholasticism? Sophistry. So notice his whole journey there was to try to trap me. And he admits all the things that sound correct. And then when the rubber meets the road with the theophany, theophanies are creatures. You notice he said it's God, and then he said it's a creature. And he doesn't even know that the glory cloud is the Shekinah. It's not an angel. It's not a creature. It's called the glory of God. God says he does not give his glory to creatures or to anyone else. So, what a bunch of scumbags.